The Connection Show. Inspiring hope. Health. Healing. Sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops. Live with Jill Reynolds. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our page. Share it. Subscribe to it now and click the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming shows.
The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Brave with Jill Reynolds. And we are at the ReAwaken conference in Virginia Beach, and it's an amazing weekend. And just now coming across the media floor is Dr. Jana Schmidt, and she's decided to come on board so you can know more about her. Welcome, Dr. Jana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, we are so blessed to have you stop in and connect with the audience. Doctor, do you like to be called Dr. Jana or just Jana?
It's just Jana. It's fine.
Okay. I just want to make sure, being polite. Jana, on the Connection Show, we truly believe that when Jesus walked the face of the earth, he loved to share stories, accounts, and parables with the inspiration that lives would be transformed. We believe God's given every one of us an amazing story. And through that story, by sharing it, lives can be transformed. When you listen to Jana share her story, look at the similarities in her life with your own instead of the differences so that you can benefit from her story in your own life for transformation in yours. So with that, Dr. Jana, I love to invite my guests, if they're willing, to go back into their childhood when they were born and share good things, hardships, and any painful memories they had that might inspire others to grow and have their lives transform as well. Would you mind taking us on a journey?
Absolutely, that'd be fine. Oh, how far back do you want me to start?
Well, you can go from the day of birth if you'd like, is whatever you remember.
Well, I have an unusual upbringing, so this is interesting that you bring this up. So I was born to a Navy SEAL doctor. He was a corpsman and later became an amazing physician. And my mom was very, very young, and when they got married and had me, I think she was probably 19, and newly married, and Vietnam War was just in full swing. And my dad was, as a Navy SEAL corpsman, gone a lot, and she was desperately worried about him and ended up protesting the war with a group of people. I guess you'd call them hippies, right? Well, sadly, their marriage didn't last. Wonderful people, but separate. And when I lived with my mom, I was in a hippie commune. When I was with my dad, it was, here's a lab coat and come do rounds with me. Let me teach you how to stitch things up and let's go run, bike, and swim. So I had two different lifestyles, and I feel like I was able to glean the best of both, because they both have negatives as well. But there are some positives in both, and I felt like I was able to glean the positives to go forward in my life. Interestingly, in the hippie commune, I had lots of communal living aunties that sewed into my life, and they never had children, actually, growing up. So I was kind of like their child, and my children their grandchildren. So lovely people, and was able to get a lot of knowledge from them, too. And
well, I'm from that hippie era.
Oh, you are?
So I'm going to make sure this is closer to you.
Thank you.
There.
Thanks.
And you can speak right in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was from that hippie era. I was left high school in 1972, and my hippie era was hitchhiking around the United States. And believe it or not, the audience might say, "Are you crazy?" But back then, it was safe,
the thing, right?
And
yeah.
in what was safe about it, it sounds weird, is you'd hold up a sign that would say like California, Arizona. And a car would stop and say, "I can take two of you." And so there might be 20 or 30 people on the same ramp, and the car would take in how many people they could fit in their car.
Fit, as far as they could go.
And along you would go, And of course, and back in those days, you would experiment with the peyote buttons and the acid and all those crazy things. So it was different in that hippie days.
It was different. and in our communal living, we had chickens and bees and huge garden and a secret garden.
The
right?
psychedelics.
The secret garden, and it's funny because I said I've never experienced marijuana as far as like in my body, but I literally know how to grow it because we had this big garden and I took care of the garden, and it was just one of the pretty plants in the garden, so it was kind of funny. But the doctor in our communal living was Patch Adams.
Oh, I met Patch at, he spoke at a conference with me about 3 months ago.
Wonderful. Right. Patch is an amazing person. He's got amazing insight on health and healing, and he was a big influence in my life then, and he is still now today. So that was a wonderful experience running around the commune. It was just a lovely experience just to be free and be a kid. And
well, he's going to be at the Moonshine Conference, and my girlfriend's doing the conference with Patch to still raise money, and
yes.
And he still likes to moon people. Patch loves doing his mooning.
He does, and every time I try to get a picture with him, he put his finger up his nose.
Oh, he loves picking your nose.
Yeah. So he's just a comic, and that joy and laughter just became very contagious, especially with all the kids, in the commune. So I do have fond memories of Patch, and I guess I grew up just holistically. I didn't have a soda probably till I was a teenager. I didn't eat candy, or we made our own bread and had chickens and bees, and it was a very wholesome lifestyle, and it's simple, and I look back on it, I'm so thankful for that great foundation that I was given as far as health goes.
So when you would go to visit Dad then, would you eat the processed food and the candy?
Not really. It was mostly my grandmother.
Grandmas are known for that. I'm bad with that. The
yes.
kids come over and they get all the snacks they don't get at Mommy and Daddy's house.
So true. So my dad was pretty healthy too. Triathlete, just an amazing, wholesome, outdoorsy type of person. Very active, but it was with my grandparents that I would visit them, my mom's parents, and I would get popsicles that I would have never gotten anywhere else, but not very often, and they were actually the ones that took me to church. Yep.
So grandma and grandpa on mom's side or dad's side?
Mom's side.
And so with your mom living in the commune, did she follow any of her Christian upbringing in the commune? I mean, because it's pretty,
no.
I just remember in my days, it was sex and drugs and rock and roll.
Right. I feel like they were fairly responsible hippies. But most of the time I was the only child there, so I was really treated like an adult, but they were really careful not to, like when I went to bed, then there was the pot smoking, right? Unless it was some outdoor festival or concert or something, and that was different. But
you were the only child there?
I was the only child there for a long period of time.
Wow.
And then there were some other kids,
Was
too.
that lonely then?
No, I had all kinds of friends. I lived by the school. It was, not
okay.
at all. And again, they included me in everything. They asked my opinion, and we made dinner together, so I never felt, isolated at all.
So then grandma and grandpa started taking you to church. What type of church did they belong?
It was a Baptist church.
Baptist.
And they didn't go very often, and I don't think they went very often when my mom was young either. So it was just a spattering here and there, and I loved to get dressed up in the little white gloves and, the little socks. Yeah. I just loved it. And so I thought it was super fun to go and meet people and have fun, and it was honestly 5 years old, Sunday school teacher. I cannot wait to meet her in heaven because she's the one who introduced me to Jesus. And I was so excited, and I thought, wow, I had lots of friends, but this is a friend that I had all the time and I could speak to all the time and was with me no matter what. So in the communal living, they were like, oh, isn't it cute she has an imaginary friend? Like, well, no, he's not an imaginary friend, he's a real, because I'd be, swinging on the tire swing, just talking away, and my mom would be like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm talking to Jesus. She's like, cool, right on. They didn't stop it, they didn't discourage it, but they also didn't really, do what you want.
They just didn't understand who Jesus was.
Right, they were happy I was happy, and that was great. And
well, we keep praying for Patch, and we keep ministering that he'll find Jesus.
Amen.
We keep praying for Patch.
I say they're great closet Christians because in the communal living, they care about each other.
They love everybody.
Each other, they share. They're selfless. Like you guys make great Christians, and many of them have grown to know the Lord. So my mom included.
Well, you know, it's funny when I was with Patch in Kansas City and stuff, and I went up to him and started talking because I know he's more agnostic,
right.
And so I just said, you are one of the most phenomenal people who permeate love. Do you know that Jesus is the founder of love? And he would love to know you, and he would love for you to know him, so that your love will even expound more. And he listened to me, Jana. It was like God created love.
I have goosebumps.
He's
That's
the
so
creator
good.
of what you love to talk about, which is love.
Yeah.
So we just keep praying for Patch that the Lord, he'll find Jesus.
Yes, me too.
Yes. So now you're going to Baptist church. This little teacher in kindergarten tells you about Jesus. He's becoming a really good friend of yours.
Yes.
And so take us then further on in your childhood of what developed then.
Well, I feel like it was just a part of me all the time, and it wasn't anything that was a phase. It wasn't going anywhere. It was just, I've always felt safe. I always felt secure in every situation. And we moved a lot. We did a lot of traveling, and pick up hitchhikers, all kinds of different things in my life. But I always felt the safety growing up, and I feel like it was always tucked away. And it wasn't probably till I was a young adult that I really took it further, to a much deeper level, even though I carried a Bible with me. But, it took me to becoming an adult, a young adult, to really see the need to go deeper. Yeah, It was good.
So in this world, we will have troubles, the Bible says. No matter who we are, no matter how we've grown up.
Right.
And the Bible talks also about 4 generations of sin and coming in from our forefathers and stuff. So with all of the joy and the love that you felt, what burdens came into your life that you felt God brought to light to you and began healing? So what burdens or pain and struggles did you see in your life growing up?
Well, I did miss, it's hard because I felt like God was always right there remediating those, even though I didn't always know it. I mean, it was hard going back and forth between my parents. I knew that they weren't great together, so that was challenging, but they were so good apart and had so much to offer that I think God just helped me focus on the positive of everything, and then just taking the negative as a lesson, as something not to do or not to experience in your life.
I'm gonna dig deeper.
Please, I'm honestly struggling to find some problem in my life.
Well, it's not even finding a problem, Jana, but how do I say this? I went to a conference in the 80s when the very, very, very first addictions recovery conference,
right.
Adult Children of Alcoholics conference, came to Nashville, and Virginia Satir and Sharon Wegscheider Cruz were the creators of Sculpting the Family, the responsible child, the lost child, the mascot, and the scapegoat. And in that conference, they did a phenomenal talk on codependency in the looking good family. It looks good, it smells good, it feels good, but underlying that, there's always skeletons in the closet.
Right.
And so that's, for the audience on this show, we like to go deeper into the skeletons for the fact that when someone hears someone say, oh, I had a wonderful life, they're sitting there, instead of connecting with you, they're going,
yeah, right.
Crap, mine wasn't like that at all.
I guess there were struggles, but I think because I was given tools to remediate what was happening right then, it didn't make a lasting burden. I mean, we all have generational curses, and I totally believe in deliverance ministry, by the way.
I do too.
Huge. And I have adult experiences with deliverance ministry. It's powerful. But as a child, I think they gave me so many great tools. I'm telling you, that hippie mindset that communal living lifestyle, everyone cared so well for each other. When they noticed something was wrong, when they saw you were struggling or you were down or lost, they came alongside. But then I always had Jesus too, so that's very cool. There was an incident that could have been very scarring to me, but I didn't see it that way. Later I heard about it. When I heard what really happened, I was shocked. I actually wrote a book called Growing Up Flower Child, and it's a lot of these views from a child that would have been terrible, but I didn't really see it. And one of them was that during the time about my mom joined the commune, I guess I was 4 or 5, my grandmother was terribly concerned about me being there. And so she called my dad and said, you need to come get her. I will pay for your flight from California to Virginia, and I will arrange to have Jana let go from school, and you take her and literally kidnap me, right?
Kidnap her and get her out of there.
Right.
Because they thought it was a cult, and they wanted to save you from the cult.
Right, exactly. So my grandmother was very concerned, and that happened. And I remember my dad came to my school and like, what a great surprise. My dad's here. This is great. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go to my house in California. And he said by the time he got like an hour into the flight, he realized that he'd made a mistake. And that as happy as he was to have me with him, he knew that it wasn't the right thing to do to my mom and everyone else. And that my grandmother was overreacting. But he wasn't going to stop. He was like, oh, my daughter's in trouble. I've got to go help her. So needless to say, my mom showed up at my dad's in California not too long after, and there was this big, but they sat me down immediately. I was just a little kid, but they talked to me like I was an adult, and they said, okay, this is what happened, your dad took you and didn't tell me, and I know you want to have a good time, so we're going to spend some time together, we're going to go to the park, and then I went home. I mean, that could have been
disastrous. Yeah, but he got convicted and changed his mind and brought you back home.
Right.
Wow. Well, going back to that word just for a second here of codependency, when I got the definition, this was kind of given to me, I think, from God, is the definition I had of codependency, Jana, was when we allow, because we have choice,
right.
When we allow people, places, or things to become more important than ourselves, we lose our own identity. And so our identity is in Christ. And then, I believe in life, this is my belief, that we should always put God first, ourself second, if we're married, our spouses third, and then work fourth, or church, whatever thereafter.
Right.
So with that, it's really easy to, I think, identify when we're codependent of people.
Right.
Places I have found, a place could be, are we codependent of a church or a commune or our work? Are we codependent where that becomes our God and becomes more important than ourselves, that we lose ourselves? And things, I always like to go with things because we forget things. So things would be like food, either under-eating, overeating, purging, binging, restricting, exercise, meaning compulsive exercise, right. Shopping, gambling, sex, drugs, alcohol, anything that might, or work, that may become more important than God or self,
right.
And identity gets lost. Kind of like when you put that oxygen mask on in a plane before you do it with
right.
children. So either people, places, or things. Have you ever experienced any time in your life where people, places, or things became more important than yourself, that you saw your identity slipping a little bit?
Yes, probably. I think because I grew up with such clean eating, that was one of my, I need to do that. I need to be in a position where I can always have organic, I can grow, I can have clean food, to the point where it was extreme. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have other things occasionally, but I always wanted access to that. And even when I got married, I'm like, we can live anywhere. I don't care what kind of car I drive. I don't care what kind of clothes I wear, but I have to have good food. I have to have clean, healthy food. That was like my thing. That, and we're not going to cheat on each other, right? But this is forever. And he was like, sure, that's fine. And he has just, I mean, he's done, we lived in times where we didn't have as much money, but he always worked really hard. And I remember seeing a time when we had 2 boys at the time, we have 3 now, 3 grown-ups now, where he was really overworking because of that commitment that he was trying to do for me. And it just hit me at one point, like, my goodness, he's working an extra job, and this is because I had this demand, right? I have to have this good organic food. So we shifted, and I mean, it kind of broke my heart that he was doing that, and it was hurting him because something I had asked. And he said he understood, and we shifted, and we, with our boys, made this big, beautiful garden in the backyard. And I said, you know, I don't think you should work so hard, and let's be able to enjoy this together. And the garden was amazing. It was great for our family. It was great, and we still had all that good food that we wanted without paying so much extra at the grocery store. And then we were able to get through that meager time so much happier.
Well, you know, and I never would ever tell people not to eat organic, because I think that's crazy to say. But are you familiar? A lot of people aren't, Jana, and I know that you teach a lot with your intellect on healthy eating and choices. Are you familiar with orthorexia? Have you heard of that term?
I've heard of the term, but it's not something it's common for me.
Yeah, what orthorexia is when anorexic, you know, is when you self-starve. Well, orthorexia is where you will not eat anything unless it's clean.
Right.
And so, but to the extent that the population that are into the clean eating now, it has now become a mental illness.
Right.
Because what happens then is the people, I've been in treatment 5 times for eating disorder, so the people that have orthorexia get to a point where they can't go to family gatherings anymore because the food might not all be clean. They start refusing to go out with friends and family to restaurants because they have to sit there and make sure, is this organic? Does this got MSG? Does this have gluten? And it's erratic.
Right.
It becomes, but it's not because they're erratic as much as it has shifted now into an anxiety depressive disorder, mental illness called orthorexia.
And there's fear there.
It's scared. Like, if I don't eat this way, I'm going to die.
Right.
And so it sounds like you were in this modality in a beginning stages, not maybe going completely over the edge. And back then, of course...
And with my kids, I didn't want them to eat anything that was harmful to them. Because I grew up so clean eating and I have such a good immune system, I really wanted to give that to them too. So I did have to let go a little bit.
Well, they taught us in treatment, Jana, to have, there's got to be gray in life. It can't be black and white thinking, because when you're always in black and white... And I happen to be, you know, I grew up with not knowing. I had genetic celiac, so I had tummy aches as a little girl, and my parents would make me eat, and I kept saying, I got a tummy ache. And so at a young age, I started chewing and spitting my food out in a napkin, and I was totally malnourished. Not to know later on in life that it was celiac.
Wow.
And so I was quite sick. And then at 14 was date raped and became anorexic to... not let my body develop, and then became a crack cocaine addict, and then stopped eating because I was doing crack cocaine. So I went through a lot of different layers of eating disorder, and then ended up years later for the first time in my life discovering sugar and starting to binge eat. And so I went through all these different stages of eating disorder, but what I learned, and I think it's a very important point to bring up here, is I learned that eating should be in balance. And so when we get into words, and some of us don't even realize how our words can be destructive. So I stopped using the word clean eating, and I started utilizing words that would say, eat in balance, eat mindfully, do food in mindfulness, and look for foods that are being more nutritious. Now, is it okay once or twice a week to do a pleasure food? Absolutely. If your pleasure food, and you might say, I'm going to have a Rice Krispie treat. Are you going to die because you got a Rice Krispie treat in? So when we go into restrictive mode, and we go into deprivation mode, it actually sets us up for eating disorders.
For failure, it does.
It does.
It does.
So I think the balance is important, and then I always tell people, all food is good, eaten in moderation, and balance for your body. And yes, and so when you say that, sometimes all food isn't good. Well, you know, you got to be
the person in the body,
you got to be careful, because when we tell people it's all bad, then they go in. Like for me, I literally went to a dietitian one time who started to tell me, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. By the time she was done, I was hysterically crying and going, I just have to go home and starve, because I can't, I'm going to go home and I'm going to quit eating. Because my mind couldn't yet grasp what she was trying to tell me.
Right.
And I was literally flipping out. So.
Right. And people that come to me and I see that they're eating a lot of things that I don't think are good for them, I just guide them gently and say, yes, if you still want to eat this, this, and this, we'll just realize it might cause a little inflammation and you may want to do something else, like add a little baking soda to your water to help remediate inflammation. So there's a nice balance there, I agree.
Or even scheduling. Say, if you feel like you need, one of the things they did with us in treatment is we had to have, when we got to treatment, we had to do a planned splurge. So a planned splurge would be, let's say, a serving of Oreos is 2 cookies. You might do 2 and 3. Okay. So 1.5. And then we would have to do what our fair food was. So let's say your fair food is pizza. For 5 days in a row, you had to eat pizza. And it was to eliminate the fear.
And this was more mental than it is physical.
It is.
Right?
It's all in the mind. It's
right.
not.
Once you've conquered that in your mind, I totally agree. Then you can go back and I can balance this naturally. So that's good.
Right. Like for me now, I can really, really stay on organic food plans. Whereas before, I couldn't do it, because if I did it, I would go totally into anorexic deprivation. I ate just a bowl of cereal a day for 5 years.
Wow.
So for me, I had to wait till my mind was in balance before I could put my food in balance.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. So bring us forward then to conclusion here.
Sure.
Of through all of these things you've learned, I don't know, believe it or not, I don't know a whole bunch about you. Many people might. So where's the doctor in you, and what are you doing today?
Well, through this process, I've been, and I didn't even mention my great-grandmother was a Native American Indian healing woman. Oh, so precious to me. Through the process and having children and raising them naturally and watching it just be such a blessing in their lives as well, and watching them grow up to be grown-ups that also eat very well and healthy and balanced. I do have to say a little side note about labels. Also have a tendency to cause restriction and fear and anxiety. So someone says, "Are you vegan? Are you this? Are you?" I don't even believe in those labels. Are you doing a paleo diet? I don't even want to do those labels. Not every type of eating works for every person. So it's definitely an individual, and balanced is usually my answers. I eat a holistic, balanced, as clean as we can. But life is messy. But we always pray over our food, because that's the ultimate, right? That can literally change the molecular structure of anything. Prayer. And today, I see people, I help them get well, I help them stay well. I love helping people with fertility. That's been one of my greatest joys. And for 25 years, God has brought me amazing couples. They've all had babies. And that's been a wonderful joy in my life too. Removing avenues of harm, making sure they get everything that their body needs. And
so are you a registered dietitian?
I'm a naturopath, so within that, it's a nutrition. Yeah,
awesome.
The naturopath includes that. So
you're doing that. I have 2 things that I'd love to share with you, and then expound on it. Yes. As a result of me seeking 90 doctors before they diagnosed me with my celiac, I then had the gift to be a part of the mouse team at the University of Chicago Cure Celiac Foundation. Wow. And had the best of the best, and the best dietitian who spent 2 hours with me going over where gluten is. And so it literally took 4.5 years to get the gluten out of my cells, being gluten-free. And they took my blood every 3 months for mouse studies. Are you aware of this? Because a lot of people are not, and I want to know if you are. And not to shame you, please.
Oh, no.
Did you know that one of the number one causes of infertility is genetic celiac disease?
I knew that it was a factor. I knew that genetic celiac was a factor.
Yeah, so if someone, this is what I learned, if someone's struggling with infertility, do not get the typical gliadin lab test because it will give you false positive readings many times, which mine did. And so, and you have to be eating gluten to do the gliadin labs. So if you've gone gluten-free and then you want to determine why am I still infertile, then on the University of Chicago Cure Celiac Research are the drop-down of the type of lab you want to get drawn, which is a genetic one, and you can be off of gluten, and if it comes back with the gene, then there's a 99% chance that your infertility is coming from gluten.
That's fabulous.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that.
And then I want to say on a side note to that, because many people don't know this, is, and you can correct me if you feel differently, please, is they shared also that most people need gluten in their diet because it's there for a reason. The gluten is a protein.
Right.
It's a protein. So if you do not have celiac disease, and unless there's a reason your naturopath or dietitian or someone told you not to eat it, actually the gluten food, if you don't eat organic foods from the ground, if you eat gluten-free foods like Udi's bread, Rudy's bread, whatever, it's like eating a bowl of sugar. And my doctor told me if you take the carbs divided by fibers and the number is above 7, that's like eating a bowl of, and so Udi's comes out at a 30.
Whoa, that's high.
The only one I found you can
That's
get,
high.
so if you do want to eat gluten-free processed food, if you're celiac, Katz, K-A-T-Z out of New York, has a 7.5 bread.
That's good. I haven't heard of cats before. That's awesome.
So that one.
That's good.
And then this one you'll love.
Okay.
And then we're going to go up.
I'm excited just to share something
Isn't
about
this fun?
too. Yeah,
so this
fun.
one is amazing. So in treatment, I had to sit with a therapist and eat and process. So one day we're eating, you're going to love this one. So we're eating pizza and grapes. So I take a bite of my pizza and I'm chewing it and talking to Jake. And Jake was like a 10 and gorgeous, 27-year-old. I'm in my 60s. And I'm like, oh, he's so cute. And so all the girls loved him. So I'm eating and Jake leans into me and says, so Jill, what's the texture of that pizza? I go, texture? What do you mean? He goes, is it smooth? Is it soft? Is it crunchy? It's crunchy. So I start talking, and then I take a bite of my grape. He goes, so Jill, what's the taste of that grape? Taste? I've never tasted food in my life. I just eat it, and I swallow it. He goes, is it salty? Is it salty? Is it whatever? Is it sweet? Is it bitter? And I was like, oh, it's sweet. And then we eat, and then he goes, Jill, what's the temperature of that food? So taste, texture, temperature. Is it cold? I said, it's cool. So as he did this, and he got to the third one, and this was like 45 minutes into eating, slowly and processing, all of a sudden I went, Jake, you're driving me crazy. And he smiled this unbelievable smile. And he goes, why? What's wrong? And I said, I'm being sexually aroused, and I don't know why. And he looks at me and goes, well, do you know that your salivary glands are on the same meridian as your sexual glands? So he goes, food is for pleasure and sustenance, and it should arouse you when you mindfully and intuitively eat and connect with taste, texture, and temperature. And I started thinking, is that why the Roman emperors would feast all day and have sex?
grapes being fed to them. Oh my
Anyway,
goodness.
take off on
and
that.
And also in your belly, so many of the dopamine receptors are in your stomach. So what you eat helps, and dopamine is one of your happy hormones. So that, there's that too. So that's amazing.
Isn't that a fun story?
That's
You're
a
going
fun
to
story.
you can use that now
Okay.
with all your patients.
I will.
Bring food in and act as you're doing counseling with them.
With that.
Yeah, you taste this, do the texture and the temperature, and then say, but it teaches them how to connect with their food.
For sure, it does. Yeah, that's interesting.
Anything else you want?
I wanted to share
Yeah.
on celiac. So on so many people that have healed beautifully from digestive issues with celiac, we have introduced this beautiful grain called einkorn. Are you familiar with einkorn? EINKORNE. This company named Jovial revised it back in Italy. It's an organic, beautiful grain, completely unhybridized for 5,000 years.
And where can you get it?
Jovial is the company, Jovial, and some health food stores and some grocery stores are starting to carry Jovial products now, but this is a wheat, but it's unhybridized. It doesn't even look like the wheat of today that's been hybridized for harvesting and growing bigger, and it's just this beautiful grain, but the beauty of this is in it has more nutrients than regular grains, has more protein than like oatmeal or spirulina.
That's good to know.
It's bright yellow because of the high lutein in it. So you remember in the Bible days where people would just eat a piece of bread and be able to go till lunch?
They did manna.
Right. This makes me feel like that because not only does it taste great, but it's super nutritious. And here's the key. The gluten in it hasn't been altered. There's two types of gluten. We'll call them A and B. And over the processing period and hybridization and all the things that man has done to it, they've gotten off. So A is down here and B is here. And this is one of the reasons for gluten intolerance. Well, it's perfectly balanced. So those people that heal very quickly and very easily, I'll introduce Jovial products, whether it's, a gravy we've made with that, or they make pasta or crackers, whatever. And so far, everyone can eat it without harm, without any trouble.
That's so good to know. We'll definitely email me the name and the link so that we can connect people with that, because these are things that people need to understand. And it's, again, instead of using the word clean eating, nutritional value to your body for ultimate health and wellness is the key words here for everyone to grasp. And I heard, maybe you can expound on this just a tad, that with our farmland getting smaller and smaller from selling off land, I heard that really attributed to the cross-contamination of grains, because one farmer might grow barley, the next wheat, the next rye. And so with the farms getting smaller and smaller, and the wind blowing, the seeds cross-germinated, causing more and more celiac disease in the population.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that wasn't as profound I had mine in 1954.
Wow.
So if you even go back,
Yours was genetic, so
genetic, so someone else in my line must have had it.
Yeah.
But we don't know who. I don't know who yet. And they say that it can skip 3 or 4 generations. Celiac can. And so if anyone has celiac, it's imperative that you get the genetic test for your children, because it's 1 in 4. And don't do the gliadin, do the genetic. So.
And then you can identify it and help them early on.
Yeah. Yes, it does, because you don't understand if the villi is gone in your body.
Right.
The
How
villi,
can it absorb?
The villi absorbs the nutrients. Otherwise, I was just eating all sugar and carbs because it was not manifesting any protein in my body.
Absorb it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, God bless you.
Thank you.
I just pray over you.
Thank you.
Blessings of life.
Thank you so
and
much.
So much. Where do you live?
Florida.
In Florida.
Central Coastal Florida.
But can people do Zooms with you?
Yes.
So if you need a great naturopath and you just need someone to help you with wellness, connect with Dr. Jana.
Thank Thank you.
God bless you.
as
Thank
well.
you for coming
your
aboard.
Amazing project here in your ministry. So thank you.
I love you. God bless you. And definitely, are you going to go to the Moonshine with Patch?
I would love to go see him again. Yes.
It's coming up in, I think it's August.
Yeah, it's next month.
Yeah, August, I think it's
Right.
coming up.
Depends when the next ReAwaken is, because I'm on all of those. So.
Yeah, I'll have to look on Brenda's site, and I'll tell you when we get off the air. Okay. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hi friends, Dr. Michelle Sherwood here.
I'm Dr. Mark Sherwood.
Many people know about our clinic, but we also have a desire to help people who can't personally visit us, but still want to take steps towards better health.
Our 2-week health reset is a great first step and requires no video appointments or tests.
With our health reset, you will get 28 detox shakes to provide the ideal nutritional foundation, 28 supplement packs with key nutrients, and access to daily videos where we encourage you along the 2-week process.
Our health reset plan is usually $180. Now, it's just $169 with your promo code. Go to Sherwood.tv now and use the promo code on your screen to receive this exclusive offer.
Take a simple step and let us guide you on the road to feel better.